When I married Daniel, I thought I was gaining a whole new family. That's what everyone says, right? You don't just marry the man, you marry his people. I wish someone had warned me that sometimes his people come with silence sharp enough to cut. I remember the first time I met his mom, Ellen. She looked me up and down, smiled without showing teeth, and said, "So, you work?" That was it. No hug, no warmth, just a sizing up like she was scanning me for weaknesses. I told myself she was just protective, that it came from love, and for a while, I believed that. Daniel and I met in college. I was a junior juggling 2 jobs and full-time classes. He was this charming, soft-spoken guy from a polished upper-middle-class family who'd never had to stretch a paycheck. We were different, sure. But we clicked in all the ways that mattered. When we got married, it wasn't some massive church wedding. It was small, sweet, on a rainy spring afternoon with mismatched chairs and a friend playing acoustic guitar. Ellen came, but barely looked at me. I caught her whispering to Daniel's aunt during the vows, shaking her head like I was already disappointing her just by existing. Still, I tried. For years, I tried. I invited her over for dinner. I called her on birthdays. I sent her Mother's Day cards with handwritten notes. Every time she visited, I made sure the house was spotless, the food was hot, and the wine was whatever brand she liked. And every time she acted like she was doing me a favor just by walking through the door. She never said thank you, never complimented anything. When I told her we were trying for a baby, she blinked and said, "Let's hope it has Daniel's nose." When I got promoted at work, she told Daniel, "That's nice. But is she still planning to take time off when she gets pregnant?" Like I was some machine she had leased for a purpose, not a person, not family. But the worst part wasn't what she said. It was what she didn't. No effort, no warmth, no memory of things I shared. It was like I was background noise in her son's life. And the more I tried to break through, the colder she got. 1,000 little icicles, one after another, until I couldn't tell where disappointment ended and numbness began. For years, I chalked it up to generational differences, or cultural ones, or just her being private. But deep down, I knew the truth. It wasn't that she didn't know how to love, it's that she didn't want to love me. And no matter how hard I tried to earn it, her acceptance was a door that had never once been unlocked, not even for me. When our daughter Grace was born, I thought everything would change. I mean, who stays distant from their only grandchild? I imagined Ellen holding her, softening in that way people do when they meet someone so new, so pure. But the first time she saw Grace, she barely looked up from her handbag. She gave this tight smile, like she was trying to be polite at a job interview, and said, "Well, she's small." That was it. No tears, no joy, no reaching out to hold her. I brushed it off like I always did. I told myself she was just overwhelmed or tired or unsure. But it never got better. She never offered to babysit, never asked how Grace was doing unless Daniel brought it up. When we invited her to Grace's first birthday party, she showed up late, brought a plastic toy still in the bag, and left before we cut the cake. She didn't take a single photo, and later I found out from Daniel's sister that she had told her friends she wasn't that involved because she didn't want to overstep. Overstep what? Loving her granddaughter? What hurt the most was watching Grace grow up not knowing her, not asking for her. One time, I showed Grace a picture of Ellen and asked, "Do you know who this is?" And she squinted and said, "That lady who doesn't talk?" It shattered something in me I didn't even know was still fragile. Daniel, bless him, tried to defend her, said she was private, said she'd always been reserved, that she wasn't good with babies, that she had a tough upbringing, didn't know how to show love, and maybe all that was true. But I wasn't asking her to be perfect. I was asking her to try. To stop acting like I was some live-in help who just happened to bear her son's child. There was a Thanksgiving that nearly broke me. I'd spent 3 days cooking: turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, homemade cranberry sauce. Set the table with the nice china, folded napkins into tiny leaves. When she arrived, she walked through the door, looked around and said, "Oh, you didn't do green bean casserole?" No hello, no compliment, just that. I smiled tight-lipped and said, "We're trying something different this year." She shrugged and said, "Humph. Some traditions are worth keeping." That night, after the dishes were done and Grace was asleep, I sat alone on the bathroom floor with a glass of wine in my hand and just felt empty, like I was running this endless marathon for a medal no one planned on giving me. And in that moment, I started to wonder if maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the problem. There's a moment in every woman's life where she quietly decides, "I'm done." Not with tears, not with shouting, just a soft internal shift. Mine came on a Sunday afternoon 2 months after Grace started preschool. Ellen had agreed to come over for lunch. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could try again. So I made her favorite: chicken salad with grapes, toasted croissants, and lemon bars from that bakery she once mentioned liking. She sat at the table, stiff as ever, sipping her tea like she was waiting for the check to arrive. Grace came in from the living room, excited to show her a drawing she'd made: stick figures and a crooked heart. "Look, Grandma," she chirped, holding it up proudly. Ellen barely glanced at it. She said, "That's something," then went right back to talking about how her neighbor's dog was ruining her lawn. Grace stood there, confused, then quietly walked back to the couch. I watched it all in silence, the way my daughter shrunk in real time, learning that love could be cold even when it shared your blood. After Ellen left, early of course, I walked into the kitchen and slowly threw away the leftover lemon bars. Each one hit the trash with a little more certainty. I wasn't angry. I was finished. I didn't tell Daniel that night, not directly, but he noticed. He asked why I was quiet, why I didn't remind his mom to take home the container like I usually did. I just said, "She'll figure it out." And he looked at me for a long time, like he finally saw what I'd been carrying all these years. That week, I stopped calling her. I stopped sending cards. I stopped including her in every little thing just to make her feel like she mattered, because she never once made me feel the same. It wasn't about revenge. It was about peace. And the more distance I put between us, the more clearly I saw the truth. I had tried to love someone who never wanted to love me back. And that's not noble. That's not selfless. That's emotional starvation dressed up as kindness. When you're raised to be polite, to always be the bigger person, you end up mistaking silence for strength. But real strength, it's knowing when to walk away, not from people, but from the fantasy that they'll ever be who you need them to be. I had done my part, more than enough. And now I was done performing. It was Grace's preschool graduation, a small ceremony, folding chairs in a sunny park, kids in paper hats holding certificates made of glitter and glue. Daniel and I sat in the front row, beaming as Grace walked across the grass with that gap-toothed smile only 5-year-olds can pull off. I had my phone out, recording everything. Ellen showed up 20 minutes late, wearing sunglasses and not even pretending to smile. Afterward, families gathered for photos. Hugs, clapping, kids spilling juice boxes on their little khakis. Daniel waved Ellen over to take a picture with us. She walked up, stood beside Daniel, and barely glanced at me. I held Grace's hand and bent down so we'd all fit in the frame. Click. But when the school posted the gallery online later that week, I noticed something strange. In the photo, the only photo, I looked like a guest. Ellen was next to Daniel, hand on his shoulder. Grace was in the center, and I was slightly off to the side, leaning in awkwardly like I didn't belong. Like I was someone's cousin, not her mother, not Daniel's wife. It hit me harder than I expected, because the picture told the truth. That's how she'd always seen me, like an extra, a shadow. Like I had been invited to this life, but never truly welcomed. I stared at that photo for a long time, not crying, just realizing how much time I'd wasted trying to force someone to see me, realizing how many moments I'd given to a woman who wouldn't even call me by name when introducing me to her friends. Always Grace's mom or Daniel's wife, never Emma, never me. And maybe that's what hurt the most, that after years of birthdays, holidays, dinners, milestones, I was still a stranger in her eyes. But I had a choice now. I could keep chasing scraps of affection from someone incapable of giving it, or I could redirect that energy into the people who did see me, into Grace, into myself. Because a stranger might be what she sees, but that doesn't mean I have to live like one. Life didn't explode after I pulled away from Ellen. It just settled. The air felt lighter. I stopped inviting her to every event out of obligation. I stopped sending texts that never got replies. Daniel noticed, of course. He asked once if I was okay with the distance. I told him, I'm not trying to punish her. I'm just done shrinking myself for someone who refuses to look. He nodded. And to his credit, he never pushed. We still saw Ellen on the occasional holiday, still made space at the table, but I stopped performing. I stopped baking her favorite pie. I stopped wearing the earrings she once complimented 5 years ago. I stopped trying to be the version of me I thought she could maybe, possibly, someday tolerate. And wouldn't you know it, the sky didn't fall. Grace started noticing things too. She asked one day why Grandma never really talked to Mommy. I didn't sugarcoat it. I just said, some people don't know how to love the right way, but that's not your fault, and it's not mine either. The freedom that came from saying that out loud, it was everything. Because for years I had carried the weight of her silence, like it meant something about me, that I wasn't good enough, that I had done something wrong, that if I could just try harder, smile bigger, cook better, dress neater, maybe she'd finally let me in. But now I see it clearly. Her silence was never about me. It was about her limits, her fears, her refusal to accept that her son's life didn't look like the one she imagined. I was never the stranger. She was. A stranger to empathy, a stranger to joy, a stranger to the kind of connection that can't be bought or measured or controlled. And now I'm done trying to introduce myself. These days, when I look in the mirror, I see someone whole. Someone who has stopped chasing people who run cold. Someone who is raising a daughter to know that love should feel like warmth. Not a locked door you have to earn your way through. I'm not invisible anymore. Not to myself. And certainly not to the little girl who wraps her arms around me every night and says, "You're the best mommy." That right there? That's all the family I'll ever need.